working to end racial profiling, bringing human rights into the struggle. So what is racial profiling? Racial profiling is any police practice where a person is treated as a suspect because of his or her race, ethnicity, nationality, or religion. So that's just the basic kind of thing of what racial profiling is. And this definition, we've actually gotten pretty close to it, and we're all pretty okay with it in the past 7 years. It wasn't the case in 2000, 2001. I'm sorry, in 99 and 2000. So this is just kind of the thing that we're getting used to. And so, as you can see there, is when police investigate, stop, search, or use force against a person based on a stereotype instead of evidence of criminal behavior. So that's what racial profiling is. But what are human rights? And I think we all know what human rights are. And these are just basic standards that we're all born with. They can't be taken away. And so they can't be traded off either. So I say, I'll give you your freedom of speech for your freedom to, for your freedom of religion. So you can't do that. These are rights that we all have that are inherited, and you cannot take them away. Okay, and the basis for all human rights is found in most religions and philosophies. So where did the modern movement start? And these two pictures, actually, you can, one of them is from the World War II with the Nazis, and so what they did is they were getting German citizens to walk by a line of about 30 women who had been starved to death by the Nazis. And so they were being forced to see that. And the second one is from the Japanese encampment in Guantanamo Bay. So what happened after World War II? In 1945, the United Nations created the Human Rights, the United Nations were created, and so they finally mentioned the UN chapter, and this was done with the help of Eleanor Roosevelt. And so I think in 1945, for a woman to be this strong voice for human rights, I think is pretty impressive. And so what she did, she actually lobbied to the president, her husband, and then after he passed away, he lobbied to the new president and to the Congress to get the United States involved in the United Nations. And in 1948, the United States signed the Universal Declaration of Rights. So this is a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, and it was pretty, it fits today. It fit back then and it fits today, and it's just something that she said. So what treaties have we signed on to? And the one that we're going to focus on today is a Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. And this was ratified or signed by the United States in 1994. This started back in 1970, in the 70s with the whole movement with racial equity, and it took us a while for us to sign it. We're just a little slow on some things. The right to help choose and take part in the government, the right to marry and have a family, the right to say what they think and to share information, freedom of speech, the right to practice their own religion, and the right to be treated equally by the law. Another one of the rights that we all have is the right to life. The reason that we chose to leave it out of here is because that will get you into a whole different ballgame, and that's not what this presentation is about. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about equal treatment under the law. And according to the statistics, 3 out of 4 Texas agencies, or 72%, reported consent searching African Americans more frequently than whites in 2005. And the reason that this data is from 2005 is that it's the most recent data that we have. The Texas Criminal Justice Coalition just came out with their 2007 report, and the data that they have is from 2005. And 3 out of 5 agencies, 56% reported consent searching Latinos more than whites. So I'm going to search your car. And the reason that we chose to put that title there is because a lot of police officers, when they stop you, and this is definitely not a police bashing. I love police officers. I have cousins who are police officers, and they've always been super nice to me, but it's the ones that don't do their job appropriately. In Houston, and the reason that we put Houston in here is because it's the 4th largest city in the nation, and Austin is because we're from Austin. So 330% more likely to consent search blacks than whites in Houston, and 100% more likely to consent search Hispanics in Houston. And in Austin, it's 380 and 180 for Hispanics. In the San Antonio area, it's 230% more likely to consent search blacks than whites, and 10% more likely to consent search Latinos and whites. And that may be because San Antonio is a predominantly Hispanic city, so it may be one of the answers to that. And the Bexar County Sheriff's Department is 590% more likely to consent search blacks than whites, and 30% less likely to consent search Latinos and whites. So their searching Hispanics or Latinos is actually lower. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. This is State Representative Sempronia Thompson, and she was the sponsor of the law that passed in 2001 in the House side. And we're going to talk about that further on. But she has always been a strong advocate for human rights and racial profiling, well, to end racial profiling. This is a story by Reverend Smith, and this happened in Madisonville, Texas. Does anybody know where Madisonville, Texas is? Madisonville, Texas, they were searching them for drugs. And so what they would do is they were stopping a lot of people, including Reverend Smith, and this is not by far the worst story that we've heard. We've heard worse stories from this. And so Reverend Smith was going home from a family reunion. He gets stopped by the police officer. He has his 10-year-old daughter in the back seat, his wife on the seat next to him. He gets detained for 30 minutes, supposedly because he had a broken taillight, or his taillight was not working. The police officers asked to do a consent search. A consent search is when you give the police officer permission to search your car.